Here. I'm back with another review, this time of a book, and not just any book. That's right, this channel that's been reviewing Transformers comics is about to talk about one of the most acclaimed novels of all time, Ragtime by E.L. Doctorow. Now, obviously, I'm not that qualified to talk about the great American literature, um, but it was kind of funny because I believe it or not, I've read a lot of or struggled with classic novels. I've read Gravity's Rainbow. I've read Vineland. I've read Mason and Dixon. I've read Dahlgren. I've read Junior. That's not a joke. I'm not lying. I've actually read that stuff. I've read The Broom of the System. Um, but I'd never gotten around to reading Ragtime. And there's somebody, I believe it was a Facebook friend of mine, mentioned in passing, oh, yeah, that book, that movie of that book was kind of terrible. Um, and I thought, wait a minute, I've never read that book. And I know everybody likes it, so why don't I read it? Um, I've never read anything by E.O. Doctorow. I know he's considered one of the greatest historical novelists of all time. Um, he is he wrote several uh, several books. Welcome to Hard Times, the Book of Daniel, City of God, The Waterworks, Billy Bathgate, movie I have seen, which I actually kind of like, but that's another story. Um, so I decided to give this a shot, even though I really didn't know nothing about it other than the feature film version is notable for being the final performance of Jimmy Cagney, which is funny because like he plays a character that is maybe on the in the book for one page. And also the first performances of, among other people, Samuel L. Jackson in a small role and Jeff Daniels. But enough about the movie. We're here to talk about the book. It takes place at about a 10-year period from 1902 to 1912. And it's about a normal family. What's interesting about the family, they're never given names. It's the father, the mother, mother's younger brother, grandfather, and the boy, little boy. And they basically wind up intersecting with various historical figures, the socialite Evelyn Nesbit, um, mother's younger brother. He um, enters into an affair with her after the murder trial. Both Nesbit and the youngest brother also encounter Emma Goldman. In fact, in one of the first scenes of the book, Harry Houdini is driving by and his car has an accident and crashes on the front lawn of their house in New Rochelle, the family's house in New Rochelle, New York. And about half the novel is this slow observation of how this family sorts of finds itself intersecting with history and not intersecting and living in their own lives. And eventually, what happens is a young black woman named Sarah winds up living with them, her and her infant child. Uh, and then we meet a character that has one of the most wonderful names in fiction of all time I've ever heard. His name Coalhouse Walker, who is the former lover of Sarah and the father of said child. And he ingratiates himself in the family in his attempts to win Sarah back. And he is also a black man, um, a successful musician. And things seem to be going well, and then something happens. A minor infraction, what some would say a minor infraction, what some would say something not worth fighting over, happens to Mr. Walker, And Mr. Walker is a man who, I mean, he's a black man in the early 20th century New York, and he finds his dignity pretty much stomped on for no real reason at all. Um, just for simple prejudice of the system. And things begin to spin out of control from there. And obviously, Coalhouse Walker is not a real person. And he's not, but you feel history happening. That's one of kind of my favorite genres. I always call it history swallowing people. One of the reasons I loved Oppenheimer, the film, so much, it felt like no matter what Oppenheimer felt or did after the bomb went off, it was relevant because there's the great scene where Oppenheimer says, "I have blood on my hands," to Truman, and Truman just stares at him as if to say, "You are not the main character of this story." The family is the main character of Ragtime, but they're not the main character of history. Coalhouse Walker is the main character of his story as he tries to get, basically things kind of spin out of control as he tries to get redress over. There's a scene where he visits a lawyer, a black attorney, to help him. And the attorney says, "Yes, what was done to you is injustice, but it's minor compared to the actual cases I'm dealing with." And they're, what happens is Coalhouse Walker's attempts to get redress get worse and worse, and lives are lost. The younger brother feels himself swept up in Coalhouse's crusade. But Coalhouse Walker himself, by the end of this novel, knows that even he will eventually be crushed by the system he's trying to upend. But, and it's what gives the novel its power, though, its prose. It's told in short clipped chapters that, I mean, making a film of it is fine, but it really gets, you get into the heads of these characters in ways you normally don't in a simple historical fiction, which is why a movie of it kind of made no sense to me. I haven't seen the film, but it just really beautifully again, it's frustrating because I want to talk about why you should read this book, but the best way I can tell you about reading this book is just to read the book. Read the first chapter. Read the first amazing chapter. Doctorow's prose is beautiful. The book gets in your head. You think about it when you're not reading it. You think about the vivid descriptions of New Rochelle, New York, and how this small family becomes a component in the larger tapestry of the world, and is, especially by the end of the film, the book, one character winds up in a place you did not expect them, but the evolution of the family as it disintegrates and in some ways reforms, and the way once you get a larger look at the world and the forces arrayed against you, even though they're not against you, they're against everyone, and there are forces that work for other people, and there are people who benefit from those forces. It's just J.P. Morgan is a main character in this book. Booker T. Washington has a memorable scene in the book. And of course, Emma Goldman is an important character in the book. Emiliano Zapata has a cameo in this book. and it's such a beautiful read. And it's all. And if you're worried about it being, I mean, I've read some tough books to read. Like I've read Junior. I've tried to read Gaddis. Like, but this is a. I'm not saying this is an easy read. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot on your mind as you're reading it. But you give it your shot. You give it time. It just flows so beautifully, and you just want to read more and more. It's about, my copy here is about 320 pages, and you get to understand and know these people over those 300 pages, and you get to understand the entire tapestry of the world they were living in from 1902 to 1912 as the threat of World War. I mean, the book, as a threat of World War One, eventually looms over the story, and you begin to understand like how we're all kind of insignificant in thrust of history. Coalhouse Walker will be forgotten. The father and the mother will be forgotten. The younger brother and the boy will be forgotten. The mother's younger brother and the boy will be forgotten. But they lived. Their lives for them were important. And we are all part of this tapestry. And that's what makes it such a beautiful read. And if there's anything I can tell you, it's just read this book. I think you'll love it. And that's all I got to say about it, because I really think reading it is more important than hearing me talk about how great it is. Thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you later.